Hello there, and welcome back to the Codex. So, Titania is one of the frames that got some buffs and some changes and whatnot to her build from the addition of some of the things that we got with the Techrot Encore update. So I figured I might as well go over that because I haven't yet. Got a few people talking about wanting that in some of my comments on some older YouTube videos. So I figured it's now time, so let's go ahead and hop into that. Alright, first off, we're going to take a look at the build right here. I call this my standard build. It's, of course, using Razor Wing Bliss because that mod is basically mandatory on Titania from how amazing it is. It gives you hundreds of % of flight speed and fire rate. And one of the reasons why I really like that fire rate is because when you pair that with Arcane Pistolier, which says on pistol headshot kill, which her Dex Pixia do count as pistols because they're modded as pistols, on pistol headshot kill, 60% chance for 102% ammo efficiency for 12 seconds. Now, 102% ammo efficiency, I don't know why it's 102 instead of 100, it just means that you have infinite ammo for 12 seconds. And again, this works on Dex Pixia, so when you combine Giga Insane Fire Rate with a bottomless magazine whenever you proc this, you have a lot of DPS, which of course we'll go over that once we get to that build there. Now, since a lot of the build for Titania focuses around the fourth ability, she is a prime use case for Precision Intensify, which gives you plus 90% ability strength. Specifically your fourth ability, that's why you see this 290 to 200 here. What this means is that the fourth ability has 290 strength, and the rest of them just have 200. One of the reasons they have 200 is the Archon Shards that I forgot to go over, so let's go ahead and do that here. 1 casting speed shard, 3 ability strength shards, and 1 max stack of corrosive shards, which this one is very nice for our DPS, at least against high-level enemies. So those shards, because I forgot those. We are using Archon Vitality. I'm using it maxed out because, you know, why not? Might as well get the extra health. And one of the other reasons we're using it is because we are using a corrosive heat build on the Dex Pixia, and this will make the Pixias apply 2 heat procs instead of 1 when you do proc heat with them, so it's just a little bit, again, of a DPS bump. Now, in terms of more defenses, we're combining the Aerodynamic Aura with the Aviator Exilus, which combined gives you 64% damage reduction while you're airborne, and of course, when you're flying around in your fourth ability, you do count as being airborne. So these two mods right here are more than double your EHP. We're also using Omamori, replacing her third ability, as effectively another 50% DR. It's not technically DR. What it does is that it's a 50% block chance that converts damage you take into healing instead. So, for example, if you currently have shields active, it will give you shields back and potentially even heal you into overshields. And if your health is damaged, it'll heal you health instead. So on, so on. It effectively functions like 50% DR. When you pair that with Prime Redirection with her decent shield pool of over 1,000 with that, it's very good at keeping you alive, actually, like I said, when paired with this DR here. And of course, flying around in the air gives you some natural evasion. Basically, you can also get some literal evasion from the Tribute buff, because you can use the Dust buff to give enemies a minus 50% hit chance, which again is effectively another multiplicative 50% DR is the way you can think about it, if you want to keep that going. You can also give yourself a 50% actual DR from Thorn, so there's a lot of factors that can stack onto Titania here to make her much tankier than she appears on paper at first. The rest of it, we're using Transient Fortitude for some strength, again combined with those shards, with Prime Flow for energy, of course. Narrow-minded and continuity, lots of duration. This was more useful previously on a different version of my build because I was using Nourish, so it was really good for that Nourish timer. It's still useful because duration and efficiency both affect the energy per second cost of Razor Wing, so I'm just going to keep it as is. It also makes our Spellbind self-cast last a little longer, that 36-second duration, because if you don't know this, you don't have to use Spellbind at enemies. You can also do what it says here. It says hold the ability to cast the immunity onto Titania, so if you hold cast a long press, you actually give yourself status immunity. One of the things that also gives you is knockback immunity, so if you run into a wall while you're flying around really fast, you won't have that knockback animation. So it's really nice. It's also the easiest and fastest way to trigger the procs for Razor Wing Blitz. So you can just do self-cast, 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 and now you have your Razor Wing Blitz all the way stacked up, so it's a very easy way to maintain that. Energize for any energy economy, and like I said, Pistolier for the infinite ammo. And then the Dex Pixia build here, it's basically the same as I was using a Corrosive Heat build. If you don't want to use Prime Convulsion, because like maybe it's too expensive, for example, or you kind of want more status chance, you can instead use Jolt. I'm actually not sure which is technically better. I haven't done like a status application breakdown DPS comparison. I'm just going with Convulsion because I am going a fairly raw damage heavy secondary Enervate build. Again, ever since Tekrot Encore, all Exalts are able to use Arcanes now, so Titania can finally crit properly thanks to Enervate, because you can see she only has 10% crit chance, which means she basically, even with multiple crit mods, couldn't even get guaranteed yellows, like just regular crits. But now with Enervate, you're very rapidly cycling all the way up to orange crits, so huge damage increase. That's why we're using Target Cracker and Merciless Gunfight for crit damage and punch through, but we're not using any crit chance mods, because again, we're getting all of our crit chance directly from Enervate. I do really like Merciless Gunfight, not just for the crit damage, but for the punch through. If you fly as Titania lower to the ground to where you're like your eye level with enemies, you can shoot through groups of enemies and hit 2, 3, 4 guys at once. And it just multiplies your effective crowd DPS and your KPM, basically. So that's really nice. Let's go ahead and showcase this against some level 230 heavy gunners here. Let's fly up in the air. And you'll see after we get our Galvanized stacks going, yeah, the damage is completely fine. And you cycle that Enervate super fast. And we don't even have our Blitz going right now, actually. So let's go ahead and get that Blitz stacked up. Ran out of energy because I didn't pick up orbs first. Whoops. Here we go. And especially with this really crazy fire rate, which again I lost because I uncapped. There we go. This fire rate is just insane. We need some more enemies, as a matter of fact, because they died so fast. So let's go ahead and resummon them. Here we go. And you can see, especially, like I said, if you fly down at eye level, thanks to that Merciless Gunfight punch through, you just kill the whole group of enemies. Like a line of them, 3, 4, 5 guys, just instantly kill them. Especially if you're shooting them in the head, which you do want to shoot them in the head because you're using that Pistolier. Now, there is one other version of the build that you can use if you want to go a more interesting kind of status application version of the killing build, and we can go to a Encumber setup like this, where instead of Enervate, we use Encumber. We switch the mods around a little bit to have a little bit more status chance, and we're using Elementalist to both multiply the heat procs, but also all of the random other dots we're going to get thanks to Encumber. So we're going to get gas procs, we're going to get toxin procs, we're going to get electric procs, so on, so on. We're going to get a lot of dots that can be multiplied by Elementalist here. And we also don't mind the reload speed. Now, one thing you would want to change with this is let's change Energize to Impetus. And then we can also take advantage of the extra strength and efficiency from all of these random effects that we're going to be proccing for a little bit more strength and efficiency. Let's go ahead and hop back up in the air here. And it takes a little moment to come online. Again, we need to get those Galvanized stacks going. But as you can see, the damage, even though we're not really critting anymore, is still totally fine just from the sheer number of status procs that we're applying. Now again, let's go ahead and get that fire rate going. And you can see, especially with that fire rate, it completely melts. So it's totally up to you which version of like the damaging killing build you want to do. In the gameplay I'm about to show you in a moment, I'm going to show you the Enervate version because I just love the fact that we can make Titania crit now, but both builds are completely viable. Let's go ahead and go back to the Enervate version here. And again, we'll switch that back to Energize. And yeah, let's go ahead and hop into a Junction Survival gameplay here. Show you some gameplay of how it works totally fine in a normal mission. And then there's one more speedrunning build to show you for Titania after that. Alright, so yeah, here we are in a Conjunction Survival. Like I said, the damage is great. I mean, especially with Pistolier, as long as you keep getting headshots every once in a while to get that 12 seconds of infinite ammo. Being able to have hundreds and hundreds of percent of fire rate, like for example, right now I have 330% increased fire rate and flight speed from Razor Wing Blitz, pairing that with infinite ammo so that you don't have the issue you would normally have with this much fire rate of instantly dumping your magazine and having to reload all the time. This is just a ton of DPS. And again, thanks to that singular Tau Forged Corrosive Sharp we have on, if you actually find an enemy, probably at a way higher levels, that's actually tanky enough to survive, getting 13 corrosive procs on them, because as you can see right now, most of them seem to die basically instantly. But if you do find a really high level, heavily armored enemy that can survive more than a nanosecond to these 18 Warthogs, then you will be able to strip off basically all of their armor, because with a 98% strip from a corrosive, thanks to that Tau Forged Shard, plus we have heat damage, so that's another 50% strip, making it a 99% armor strip, because those are multiplicative with each other, then they're going to have 1% armor left. So you basically make them go down to having just their normal health pool, aside from enemies that are status capped, obviously, like Acolytes and whatnot. But those enemies, you'll be able to do enough just normal burst damage to that it's not really an issue. But yeah, like I said, not super complicated. Just keep your Omamori up. As you can see, it's very good survivability in Titania. A lot of the time, you won't get hit anyway. I'm not even using some of the buffs like the evasion enemy debuff from her second ability. One of the things she can do there. And still, it's not really an issue. I have over 2,000 overshields right now, thanks to Omamori proccing me up into overshields. And yeah, lots of damage, easy survivability, energy economy is really not an issue, thanks to Energize. And I mean, yeah, that's about it. It's good. It's quite good. Let's go ahead and talk about one more use of Titania, though, and that is speedrunning lower-level missions with Thermal Sunder. So for the Thermal Sunder version of the build, you can see we sacrificed a lot of duration and a little bit of strength, and we gained a lot of range. We went from having barely any range, severely negative, up to nearly the max range in the game that you can have, and that's because this is a Thermal Sunder nuke build that you're going to primarily use for like low-level, non-steel path, speedrun type killing missions. For example, if you want to do exterminate fisher missions, given the fact that you can typically do exterminate fisher missions so fast that an acolyte's not going to spawn, that means there's no benefit to doing those on steel path. So the real benefit of doing those is that you can get them done very, very fast. So things like those exterminates, those captures, those rescues. And like I said, typically the fisher versions, because even on rescues and captures where typically kills wouldn't matter, if you're doing a fisher version of that, then you are going to have to get kills because you have to get your reactant drop. So any of those kind of very speedrunning type missions that all of a sudden you do need to get kills on, but the enemies are very weak, you can utilize this Thermal Sunder setup. So you don't need a ton of strength. You want very big range, so you can just keep map wiping as you're going through the mission. And we switched to the arcanes. A lot of the time, you might not be able to reliably get energy orbs because there's going to be a lot less enemies. Because for one, like I said, it's probably not steel path. And you're going to be going so fast that even if they do drop orbs, you might not pick them up. So using Steadfast instead to just directly make multiple of your ability casts free is the play here in terms of energy economy. We're also using Arcane Impetus, which once I show you the Dex Pixia ability, you'll understand why this is useful. We're going to be able to reliably get about 13 procs of this, which means that we can get 78% strength out of this, and we can get 39% efficiency. So our strength is actually going to be over 200% if you have this stacked up as much as we can. And the efficiency, instead of the base 100%, is actually going to be closer to 140%. So it is also going to make those Thermal Sunders, those spam cast a lot cheaper. So again, pairing that with Steadfast, you're not going to have any issues with energy economy. We are still using Razorwing Blitz. We're not really going to be firing the guns at all, but we do still like the flight speed that this gives us. Did not mean to take that off. Whoops. And again, so that makes that great for speed running. We are still using Archon Vitality as well, because that will double the heat procs that Thermal Sunder applies if you're using the heat version of Thermal Sunder, which you do want to use to, like I said, take benefit of this. And on this version of the build, since it's very unlikely you're going to die because it's for low-level missions, you can use a unranked Vitality. So if you do have 2 Archon Vitalities, you can save on some mod space by using an unranked version of this, because you don't really need the health benefit. You just want the double application of those heat procs. Now, we're also using Preparation, by the way, to start off the missions with max energy, because again, this really makes those speed runs be able to be speed runs, because you start off with max energy, you can immediately go into Razor Wing, immediately start spamming Thermal Sunder, so it works out very well. Now, the reason why Arcane Impetus is so good is because we're also going to change the Dex Pixia build to using this version of the build, or something like it. This exact build isn't required. Basically, you just want to focus on decent fire rate, very high status chance. It doesn't matter what elements you actually have, because we're going to be using secondary encumber, so you just want decent fire rate, some multi-shot. You actually, I'm just not realizing, since this is going to be used against low-level enemies, you probably could actually change this to Galvanized Diffusion, because you will actually be able to kill them, even though this isn't really a killing build. So you can, if you want, use a Galvanized Diffusion still to have a little bit more multi-shot. But anyways, you just want a ton of stash chance. As you can see here, we have 107.5%. So on this build, we're going to be proccing Slash, Puncture, Corrosive, Impact, and Blast. But we're also going to be proccing basically every other, damage type in the game with secondary encumber. And in terms of the normal damage types, with an encumber setup, you'll be able to apply 13 procs in total. That's why I said you could get 13 stacks of that 6% power strength and the 13 stacks of that 3% ability efficiency from the Impetus Arcane. So that's where those numbers came from. But yeah, basically you just use this, go into a mission, spam. Let's go ahead and showcase that. Didn't have any of the kind of appropriate Fisher missions up on the non-steel path to show you this at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the normal Adaro Exterminate as an example of the kind of lower level speedrun killing type mission that you would take this build to. So you just go ahead and hop right into your 4th ability. The first few guys that you see, like I said, if you want to stack up that impetus, just throw a few shots at them, and you'll see in the top right here, you'll start to get up these stacks. Again, the max that you'll be able to get this impetus up to on this build is going to be 13 stacks. So if you do want to cap it out, you can just keep firing until you hit that. You can see we're still at 3. Now we're at 4. They were at 6, so on and so on. You don't have to max it out, though. Just keep that in mind. You can kind of feel it out. If you feel like you have enough efficiency and you're already killing guys fast enough, then you can just get however many stacks you quickly can, and then just keep going, basically. Because, again, we are trying to get a speed on here. We're up to 8 stacks now. Again, I'll just keep throwing some shots at them. Now we're at 9 stacks. Yeah, you just fly through. I don't even have to look at the guys. You can basically look at the mini-map more than you can the actual enemies, because the thermal Sunder is going to do all the work for you. Titania is just here to get around the map super fast. Spam out those thermal Sunders. The enemies are not going to survive them with this amount of strength. And yeah, you just speed run straight through the mission. Absolutely no problem. As you can see, we're already over halfway done here in the very short amount of time that I've been explaining this. Gonna ignore that guy. Don't want a coup weapon right now. 98, 99, over 100. Don't forget, you can go into your operator while you're in Razor Wing to open doors like that, so you don't have to actually exit out of your 4th, which is good, especially if you're using like Madurai, for example, the snapshot. You don't want to have to redo that snapshot. And there you go, we're already done. So that is how fast you can get missions like those done. Let's go ahead and get to extraction here. See how quick that was. And that wasn't even as fast as you can go. Like, I probably could have done that in less than a minute if I was just focusing purely on doing this. But there we go, minute and 55 seconds. Easy as that. Same concept in a Fisher mission. The only difference is that you'll be also picking up your reactant, and you could potentially be even stronger in a Fisher mission, because if you get corrupted on your Titania, then it'll double your strength and double your range temporarily. So if you want to actually kind of min-max that, also remember that if you want to, you could just bring one weapon instead of a full loadout, because again, you're not going to use weapons anyway. You're using entirely Titania and thermal Sunder. So if you do want to min-max Fisher runs with her, you could bring just one weapon, for example, and then you have a 50-50 chance of getting the corruption on your Warframe, because when you get corrupted in the Fisher mission, it can only corrupt you for something you actually have equipped. So if you take 2 of your weapons off, now instead of a 1 in 4 chance, you have a 1 in 2 chance. So you're doubling your odds of getting that frame corruption to get even more strength and even more range to make those missions go even faster whenever that does happen. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Just want to give you a quick rundown on a few different ways you can use Titania. She's obviously, as you can see, much better with some of the additions that we got, primarily from the TechRot Encore update, the ability to put Arcane on Dex, the Dex Pixia, along with some of the new mods, like the Merciless Gunfight, for example. I really like that mod on the Enervate version of the build, at least. She's great. It's nice seeing her actually be able to crit now and things like that and do way more damage than she used to. She's very viable in even longer steel path runs against decently high-level enemies. She's obviously still amazing, now even better in those speedrun type missions as well. Let me know what you think down below, and hopefully it was useful and entertaining to you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the video and want to support the channel? The best way you can do so is to like, comment, and share the video along with subscribing to the channel if you think I've earned it. And if you want to catch me live on Twitch, my schedule is posted on the screen right now, so feel free to drop by and ask questions. As always, thank you to all of my YouTube members, Twitch subscribers, and Patreon supporters.